the rainy season and all. But in fact, it's so regular, you just kind of get used to it. It always comes from the same side of town every time. So when we see the clouds gathering up over in that direction, we know we have about 20 minutes to get done what we're doing and get back to the house. And then you could hear it hitting the tin roofs of all the homes in the area way off in the distance. And it sounds kind of like an oncoming train. It's and then you see the Ugandans just scurrying everywhere, and you're like, you got to hurry, So get your wash in off the line and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice, and I appreciate what was said about how we get used to warm climates. We live at the equator. The equator runs right through our country, so we cross from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere when we're driving back to Mbarara. And so, yes, I have grown accustomed to, 70, 80 degree weather in January and February. And, people, complain about the cold, and, I'm going swimming outside, so it's a wonderful thing. And my birthday is in February, so I like to go swimming to just celebrate the fact that I am no longer in a northern climate, and that's the way it should be. So it's a pleasure to be back with you, and I do want to say, I should probably introduce my family while I'm thinking of it. This is my wife, Anna, and my daughter, Brenna. And we have 6 children, which you can see them up on the screen there, and raised those guys on the mission field. Brenna was born there, so I always tell everybody she's my African-American daughter, and because she actually was born in Africa, so that's how that works out. She don't get no scholarships, though, so I don't know what we got to do to work that out, but she definitely feels like Africa's more her home than here, and the people there claim her as such. They're quite proud of the fact that, they think Mzungus, that's what they call pale folk such as myself, they think we're too weak to really have a lot of kids, and so the fact that I have 6 is interesting to them. And my wife had twins to start with, and so that is a huge deal in their culture. So when they find out you're the father of twins, they change your name. So I'm a Sadong now, and my wife is Nadong, and so I wear the same hat all the time. I've got this collapsible Stetson that I bought over in a while back, and I used to wear that one until it wore out, and then I switched over to a Brazilian tarp hat, which is about the most ghetto hat you can get, but I like it because it keeps the sun off. And so I wear the same hat, and I'm this big, tall Mzungu fellow wandering about, and they'll holler at me from across the square, the road, or whatever, Sarong, and I'm like, hey, how's it going, guys? So I had twins, and that's a big deal, and a pile of kids. So your pastor understands that. That's just a way that I think you ought to do it. I always tell everybody, make better humans. If you want to improve the lot of the world, make better people. And what better way than generating them yourself the old-fashioned way through just simple biological reproduction, and then raising them in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, and then loosing them on the world to, I like to think, to sow chaos, but just to spread, more and more godliness, and just keep that progress going of making better people. And the church does that too as well. So it's a thrill to be a part of it. But actually having a big family helped me in the ministry because they see me more as one of them, because they all have huge extended families and lots of aunties and uncles and grandmas and grandpas and everybody, and that's just the normal state of affairs. And they watch a lot of our TV, so they think our bodies can only generate 1 or 2 kids and then we're done, and I try to explain to them, no, that's by choice, I had all the 6 that God gave me, and they're a blessing and a treasure, and we're very, very happy to have them. So that all worked out good. I'm a pastor of 4 churches in the Nacha Valley refugee settlement. We've been there for 13 years now. I headed over in 2010, and I'm basically just a circuit riding preacher. I go from church to church to church to church on a Sunday. Actually did do 3 services on a Sunday for a while, but once we started that 4th church, I just couldn't fit them all in anymore. You can't drive after dark in Uganda. The roads are bad enough in broad daylight, but after dark, you're it's really presumptive. You're asking to meet Jesus quicker, and I try not to do anything to foolishly kill myself unnecessarily, and so it's like any place, where in the country, it's just dark. There's no ambient light anywhere, and it's just dark, and so trucks will just park by the side of the road, and the way they let you know that they have broke down is they'll lay branches in the road. So, when you're driving along and you see branches in the road, your instinct is to want to jerk the wheel. They don't use, flashers or reflectors or nothing, so you can crest a hill and there's a truck there. So it's just, and then there's bandits, and, there's pedestrians in the road all the time, and cows and goats and chickens and little children sometimes, and it's just not safe to drive after dark. So I can do 2 services on a Sunday, and then we'll switch over and we'll do the other 2 churches the next week, and that's just what we do. We get up, bright and early, on a Sunday morning, and then pile into the car, and we got to try to be to our first church by around 9 or 9:30 if we can make it, and we go in. My wife does Sunday school. Does flannel graph for all the children. The adults hang around too, because they've got to supervise the kids, but they're interested in it too, and it's kind of cool. When she handed out coloring pages the first time, it about caused a riot. They'd never seen anything like that before, and it was so interesting to them, and they're just coloring their pages and everything, and the adults wanted to, and then the adults even let the kids do it, so it was a good thing. But then I do a full church service, and they like you to preach for at least a good hour, so they feel like they got their money's worth for walking there, because everybody walks to church, and so they don't want you to waste their time, and if I don't preach long enough, they're looking at me like, what are you trying to gyp us here or something? We don't get a full service. What's going on here? So we do that, and then I try to hang around and do a little counseling, and if necessary, and then I go around and bonk all the children on the heads on the way out the door to make sure they're growing up good and strong, and everything like that. That's what happened to me. They piled bricks on, and it didn't work, at all. So then we pile in the car, we drive 20, 30 minutes down the road to the next church, and we do the same thing again, and then the next week we come out and we swap, and I do the other 2 churches, and that's just how we've done it week in and week out for years and years and years, and God is just blessing, like we were talking about over dinner, and thank you so much for taking us out to eat. It's a challenge to find places that serve food that my wife can have because of the terribly annoying gluten intolerance thing that she developed because of COVID. And believe me, she hates it the worst of all, because it's like robbed her of precious things like donuts and pizza and and all the lovely cinnamon buns is another one. You just can't have it anymore. You got to try to find a substance that's almost but not entirely quite unlike bread, and have that instead. And the whole time you're eating it, you're thinking, this is not bread. So I appreciate you guys working with us to find some good places to eat. But God's just blessed in Uganda, and every place you go to minister, every place that missionaries wind up, you can't take the absence of fruit as evidence that you're not being successful. Some places are just hard, and they're just resistant to the gospel. And Jeremiah preached for 35 years, never had one convert. Jesus never baptized anybody ever in the entire 3 years of his ministry on earth, and that's the Son of God. All right, so you can't take that as proof that you have failed. You have to be faithful. Most of ministry is showing up, and the other portion of it is just not giving up when it gets hard, which it will if it hasn't already. And usually it goes in cycles. So we enjoy the brief periods of peace because we know that something's coming down the road that we're going to have to deal with, and you just kind of roll with it. But just be faithful, and then people will get saved, and you just keep doing the work of the ministry. But for some reason, where we live in Uganda, God's just interested in East Africa, and we're just seeing an awful lot of fruit. And I feel like It's not like I'm not doing anything, but I feel like you just kind of show up, throw some seed on the ground, and poof, you get some fruit. It's not like that everywhere, all right? That doesn't always happen, but there's just an outpouring of the Holy Spirit, and my personal theory is that God intends to empty Africa when the rapture happens. And so I'm doing my small part, all of us, to contribute to that goal and try to see as many folks get saved as we can, properly and scripturally baptize them, add them to the church, and then disciple them over a period of time so they can grow up in their Christian faith and then get to the place where they can share that faith with others also. And if you just do that as a church, pretty soon, you've got lots and lots of, saved Christian people practicing their faith and, replicating themselves among all their friends and family. And so, a lot of the work of outreach is just done by our people. They just go out, they find people, bring them in. I preach to them. Maybe get to lead them to the Lord, maybe not, but somebody will. And then they'll get saved, and then I baptize them. And, we watch them for a while, and then when the church is ready, we have a service and vote and add them in, and we just keep growing and growing and growing. And so that's the way it's worked. And I'm actually in America trying to raise money because I need to build more buildings, and some of my buildings are falling down. They need to be replaced. My Sangano one just needs to be larger because we're outgrowing it, and that's a good problem to have. So that's one of the things you can pray about. We're trying to raise $80,000 to do a lot of different things out at the camp, and we've been trying to raise that for an awfully long time. And it's mostly just trying to repair some buildings before they fall down and kill somebody, and get some water reclamation tanks in so they have clean water so they're not dying from parasites all the time. And also for baptisms, because we do actually baptize by immersion. There's really no getting around that. It's what the word means. And we're just trying to deal with some different needs in the camp, and we can do it pretty cheap compared to what you would pay for similar things in America, but it does cost, and so pray about that. And then I'm trying to raise more support because we lost some on account of COVID, and I'm trying to build our support levels back up because the costs keep going up, and you have to raise money to cover those changes. And one of the things that affects us the worst is the cost of fuel and the cost of energy. And it's killing us. It's eating us alive because I'll burn a quarter tank of gas every time I go out to the camp, every time. And we're paying like about $6 a gallon for diesel right now. Not even petrol. Petrol's more. So it's getting, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up, and no end in sight. So definitely pray about that. Specifically, that all the churches we visit, that God will prosper them so they can support us, and that the Holy Spirit will motivate them to do so. And that's always very helpful as well. And then pray for laborers. We need qualified men that can lead the churches, and men like that, they have to be called of God, and they have to be made, and it takes time to train people like that. And we've had multiple men that we thought could possibly fill that role, and it's like every time we'll start to move one into a position of leadership, they self-destruct. And so I have had a devil of a time trying to find anybody that can manage a church and that I can trust with that responsibility, because you can't just give your church to anybody. So I'm still maintaining my responsibilities as a senior pastor, and then I got an awful lot of deacons that help me, and we all kind of work together to share those responsibilities, and it works out really, really well. Oh my goodness, we got a flash flood warning. What are we going to do? Well, we got our ark on the back table there just in case, so that all works out in the long term. Unfortunately, one of the crocodiles has disappeared. My theory is the other crocodile must have eaten him, so that species is extinct now. So that's how that works. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything. Right. Make sure you get yourself a prayer card. We do have those, and I don't need them. I remember what I look like most of the time as long as I take my medication and whatnot. And those have QR codes that you can scan that'll take you into our website where you can read up on our blog and everything that we're doing. And my Rumble channel, which is where I put all my videos. Actually, Brenda's made several of them. I've made some. And it's just a way to show you what's going on. It's easier to show you than to tell you. And then we got, I'm on Truth Social because I hate Twitter and I won't use it. I'm sorry, X. Whatever Musk is calling it these days. So I'm on the Truth Social platform if you want to get your microblogging stuff like that. And then my wife also has some books, which I know some of you have already checked that out, but she writes a lot of books. She's working on one right now, and she just sells those, and then all the money she makes, she keeps it, and we get back to the field, and she uses that to buy things like reading glasses for our elderly so they can continue reading their Bibles, buying things like prenatal medicine for expectant mothers because their medical care is not good in the camp, as you can understand, and infant mortality is high, so we try to help with that as much as we can. And then food and medicine when they need it, which typically covers things like malaria and typhoid, because Cipro is what you need for typhoid, and it's about the most expensive antibiotic money can buy. So we do need that on occasion, and so that's her contribution to the ministry. And so if you want to tap into that, be my guest. They're great books, and they're well worth your time to read. And 100% of what she raises goes right directly back to the refugee camp, and that's kind of her deal. And so I think that's pretty much it. Did I leave anything out, Brenna? I guess not. Thank you for supporting us and for backing us and for praying for us and for taking such an interest in our life and our ministry. It means a lot, and I know the other missionaries can say the same thing. But it's our pleasure to be with you, and we're happy to get to see all of you again and to meet your new pastor. It's good to meet the new guy, and we're definitely praying for Brother Terry. In case you didn't know, he trained my father-in-law in the ministry way back when he was at Laterno College, long before I was anything other than a twinkle in my father's eye. And so I am the beneficiary of that man's ministry by way of my father-in-law, who raised my wife, which I ultimately married. And so that's the connection there, in case you were wondering. All right, let's go ahead and show the video, and then I will be done. God bless you. Greetings. I'm James Huckabee. My wife, Anna, and I answered the call of God in 2005 to begin the long and sometimes arduous process of going to Uganda as missionaries. Our church, Grace Baptist Church in St. Louis, Missouri, commissioned us and sent us out to be their representatives in a foreign land, far from home. We gathered ourselves and, at the time, our 5 children, and set forth on the adventure that eventually allowed us to gather our possessions and journey to another continent, to Africa, to Uganda. Uganda has been our home since 2010. Our children grew up there. Our youngest child was born there. We have built a life there in Mbarara, our own bright, warm city on a mountain in southwestern Uganda. We remain with our African child, Brenna, and continue to do the work God called us to, and will do so until Jesus returns or God gives us permission to leave. It is our great privilege and pleasure to serve our Savior Jesus Christ, seeking to bring the gospel to the people he loved so very much and gave his life to save. Our oldest children are attending college in America. They are all still serving God. They look back on their time here with love and affection and miss their home in the sun greatly. God has used their time here to turn them into the compassionate, godly, motivated young men and women they are today. Currently, I pastor 4 churches in the UNHCR refugee camp in Huckabee. These are the Independent Baptist churches of Uganda, Isanja, Sangano, and Kabazano. I have endeavored to train mature disciples of Christ and produce qualified leadership to manage our churches. Anna has been in charge of our large and ever-growing children's ministries, heading up our Sunday school classes, training teachers, and conducting our annual marathon vacation Bible schools. So called because for 3 straight days, we do 4 separate VBSs at each church, one after the other, an hour at a time. God has blessed our labors, and our ministry has borne much fruit, with hundreds saved and baptized over the years.
We can see the hand of God on this work, because even though the COVID lockdowns kept us out of Uganda for 2 years, our men continued the works, meeting house to house in spite of the church closings that lasted almost the entire time across Uganda. And when I returned at the end of 2021, there were 65 people needing baptism, and baptize them I did. It took over an hour. Our goal is to continue training and teaching, and to someday produce enough qualified leaders to be able to hand the churches over to faithful men, and then start more churches elsewhere. Would you prayerfully consider giving monthly in a financial partnership with this ministry? With your added financial support, we would be able to further expand the work God has led us to do. Or perhaps would you prayerfully consider a one-time gift to support some of the shared needs of the 4 churches in the Nacha Valley refugee camps? To find out more, visit our website and click the link labeled Outstanding Projects. For those who have supported us all these years, the hundreds saved, baptized, and discipled, the numerous souls delivered from false religions and pagan cults, are fruit credited to your account. Your generosity and prayers made it possible to go, and more importantly, to stay. Thank you for your investment in our lives, and most of all, in the people of Uganda. God bless and keep you. You can follow our exploits and the work God is doing through our ministry at our website, missionuganda.com, or on our Rumble channel.
All right, well, let's all stand together.